Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be continuing reading our entire Bible, as we have been throughout the Action Bible. So we're going to be starting on, this is called Saul's Bravery. As we learned, the people wanted a king, so Samuel prayed for one, and Saul has been presented before him, so he's going to be the next king of Israel. So this is based on 1 Samuel chapter 11 through 12, so let's go ahead and get into it. Soon afterwards, Saul gets another chance to prove himself. The anointment king offers some Israelites the chance to be slaves as long as they each cog one of their own eyes out. So Saul's faces his first test as a king. The spirit fills him and he's ready to fight. But to his amazement and anger, he discovers that some of the people are afraid to fight. He acts at once. So, the chances to be slaves, to the Israelites, if you are to be that one to prove them, you'd have to cut out your own eye. So, that would be pretty brutal on itself. Not only are you obviously is your eye getting cut out, but you have to do it yourself. You have to peel it in there, pluck it out, and make sure it comes fully off, which would be extremely painful, I'd imagine. But let's see where this leads us next. So, and some of the people are afraid to fight, of course, as we've seen, already a ton throughout this book, just losing the faith in God that, instead of having it and having it strongly. So the king orders us to kill the oxen of any man who refuses to defend his countrymen, or I'll join the army right now. With such an effective recruiting method, an army forms quickly, and Saul attacks at dawn, catching the Ammonites by surprise. The Israelites swiftly defeat them. As we have seen, there's been a ton of battling and war. Unfortunately, that's just been part of our history as humans, from the beginning of time, as we could see, all throughout the Bible, and even after Jesus' death, there were still tons of wars and battles, even in the Romans and all that stuff. And then even here in America, and even in the 1900s, we've obviously before, the 1900s, we had the Civil War, and then after that we had World War I and II, the Cold War, and Vietnam, and the Desert Sand War, I think is what it is called, the one in the 90s, and then, everything happened in 2001 up to this point, and even now with the Ukraine war and the war over there in Israel, and all, just so much, death and war all throughout time, and all this could have been avoided if, Adam and Eve would have just stayed away and just resisted the temptations of the devil. But unfortunately, that has brought us to where we are now. Proud of their victory, the Israelites shout out their praises to Saul. Sure, they are all for you today, but what about the men who didn't want you to be king? They should be killed? No, man will be put to death for that. No man will be put to death for that. You shouldn't kill somebody just because they didn't trust you or think you could be a good king. Now that Israel has a king, Samuel prepares to withdraw from his position as judge, but before he does, he calls the people together and speaks to them as a prophet of God. Obey the Lord and serve your king. Then all will be well with you. But if you return to any of your wicked ways, you will be destroyed, both by you and your king. So, he has let out a great warning to warn them. So we'll see if they, listen to Samuel, or if they just go on careless. Spurred on by his victory over the Ammonites, Saul forms a standing army and prepares to win his people's freedom from the Philistines. His son Jonathan starts by successfully conquering a Philistine garrison, and again Israel cheers. So, yes, we'll continue that next week. So obviously now we're starting to see the beginning and leading into, Saul's rule over Israel. Obviously the next king, as I said before, would be King David, and he'd be one of the greatest kings that, Israel ever would have. And he was definitely a great man of God and a great man of faith, faith believing, but we'll get into him. Right now we're learning about Saul, and this is going to lead up to the point of David, which I had covered before, and then we'll go all the way through that and, on to the next. But, again, if there's anything this, book has showed quite a bit is the lack of faith people have in God. The lack of faith they have in him to win these battles. The constantly turning to false idols because of it, or thinking that the the Ark of the Covenant, which is the Ten Commandments, but Ark of the Covenant, is what helped them, win the battle. And that's not true. The Ark of the Covenant, is a great, holy thing, and especially because God himself wrote the commandments and they are placed in there. But it did not win the battle. God won that battle. He's won many of these battles. So if there's anything we can learn from this is to, have faith, no matter how bad it seems. You got to read this over and over and over again. You cannot turn against God. Look at everything they've gone through. No matter how bad it seems, they were slaves and everything to the Philistines, and now look at them. So, no matter how bad it gets, or how bad things are going, or whatever, don't lose faith in God. He's won great wars, battles. Okay, now imagine what he could do spiritually for you. Imagine what he can do, for your job, for your home, for your family, whatever it may be. Imagine what he can do for your business or whatever. So have that faith and trust in God. All things are possible for him who believes. And you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Remember that. Take it easy, guys. I'll catch you next week.